Well, I thought it was about time I put a bit of an update up. Seemed to have been very busy and yet not made a lot of progress. Primarily where I'm at is having confirmed that the bed alignment and everything was fine. The plan has always been to let Chris, my friend who is a retired machine tool rebuilder, let him do the finishing, tickling up on the surfaces and reproduce the faces as he would have done for machines at Craven and then through his subsequent career around Manchester. That's proving frustrating from my part, to say the least, primarily because Chris has got other things going on in his life and he's trying to snatch an hour here and an hour there, which by the time you extract the amount of chatting he wants to do, doesn't leave an awful lot of time for scraping. So conscious of that, I've been trying to get things ready and shuffled round and made up. One of the problems we've had is, and I'll flip the camera around and walk you through. So one of the problems we've had is keep having to level up the bed with the wedges there and to the other end. Mainly because Chris keeps kicking them with his feet. So what I've decided to do is, whilst he's scraping up, I'm going to make up the jacking feet, and the plan was to basically open these holes out, thread them, and then make a thick walled threaded sleeve which would go down, sit on a plate, and that would allow us to jack the foot up and down against the plate, and then have a number of them. I think the idea was there's 8 points, and to have four of the internal 4 points, have those drilled through the plate in the floor into a resin bonded fixing in the concrete bed. My concern is that this concrete floor is not as good as I would have hoped. When I resin bonded the M16 studding into the floor there, what should have been a 6-inch thick floor, I have my doubts it was more than 4. Yeah, it's certainly 6 around the edge where I've measured it, but it looks as if it's not very thick in the middle. So jury's still out as to whether I'm going to actually put a fixing through into the concrete, or what I'd like to do is basically use a flat plate glued to the surface of the concrete with a stud coming up and then a nut to clamp it down, so it's jacked up and clamped down at the same point. So that was the plan. Long discussions and explanations with Chris, and he basically said that he would recommend putting a 1-inch BSP thread into the foot, and to convert that into English, it's around about 33 mil roughly diameter, and it's 11 threads per inch. So because I've got a 1-inch BSP tap, I thought, oh great, cooking. Before, I haven't got a means of drilling this without taking the pedestals off and a lot of cocking about. So Chris said, oh, I've got a mag drill, and I've wasted nearly 3 days repairing a mag drill that he said was in good working order, but apparently it was borrowed off him some time ago and handed back in less than working order. More of that in a moment. So the next problem, having got a mag drill that would sort out, would be get a rotor broach bit. I think it's something like a 30 odd mil hole, and it's an oddball size, and you can't buy annular cutters that are that size, so it was either 1/2 mil up or 1/2 mil down, and just got a bit complicated and a bit silly. So I had a break from doing that, and I thought, right, I'll make up the shafts for making the feet out of. So turn these up, and these are turned to a diameter suitable for putting a 1-inch BSP thread on, like that. Now my lathe's metric, and I haven't got the conversion gear for doing 11 threads per inch, so Chris lent me a pipe threading kit. So got it all set up, clamped up, got about 1 inch down, and the little ratchet pawl in the pipe threading kit gave up. Net result of that was I then spent the rest of that day repairing that, boxing it all back up, cleaning it all, boxing it all back up, and getting ready to give it back to Chris. Threw a bit of a wobbler myself because I'm sick and tired of delays, and I just want to get this thing moved now. I need it out the middle of my workshop floor and over there, and I can't do that until we've got the headstock on. We can't get the headstock on until the lathe bed is finished, and I ain't convinced that hanging around for Chris is going to be the best use of my time, and I don't want to fall out with Chris because I'm not paying him for it. This is a job he's taken on to help me out, and basically show me what he can do, but it's taking an absolute age. So I am going to continue doing what I'm doing, and instead of trying to do a 1-inch BSP, I'm converting it to a M30 by 2mm pitch, because I can then cut the threads, single point cut them on the lathe, turn these down to 30mm. I've bought a rotor broach 28mm diameter cutter. I've now got a mag drill that almost works. I'm just waiting for some fixings to finish putting that together, and I bought a 30mm tap, so that lot cost me 60 quid. Chris has dug out an old mag drill that he's picked up, which is a bit worse for wear, so I've got to have a look, take the top off that, see what needs doing, plug it in and see if it actually works, and then determine the hole sizes I need. Well, after what seems like bloody eternity, the borrowed mag drill, which just needs the cable putting back in, didn't. It needed rewiring because there was three other joints along it. Turned it on with the original switch, that one, and well, I've not even got the other piece, that one. Nothing happened. I had plugged it in anyway. Pulled the front face off and all the connections inside had been severed. Rear of one of the switches was gone. Internals of the other switch were of questionable reliability. And half a dozen of the bloody connections were loose. So I've had to basically rewire the thing inside. I could have done with a new set of proper switches, but to be brutally honest, it ain't my tool. I just want to do the job with it, and then if he wants it doing it, he'll have to buy the bits for it. So I've just got to tidy up this front face now. It's just a couple of toggle switches now. I've had 2 replies from adhesive manufacturers saying that they haven't got a product that they would recommend gluing a metal disc to concrete, which is odd because back in the 80s that's how Hitachi used to do it with their big machines. So I need to do a bit of digging about. If you've got any ideas, do let me know. So today's plan is I'm going to make some nuts, well, some hex bar that I can put a 30mm M30 through the middle of, and they'll be welded. Yeah, it says welded. Just trimming up the last face or roughing it out, then we'll have a measure up and see. There's an error, but it's not much. I think 5 of the faces need 5 or 10 thou coming off. It's proving tough stuff. I'm wondering whether it's EN24T. Finally got a chip to break. That looks pretty adjacent. Nice. Thought I'd take a look at the 1-inch mics, 2 of which are new ones, new to me. Bought in a lot off eBay. Thought I'd have 10 minutes break from humping stuff about and just clean up this Starrett mic that I picked up in an auction. It's got a couple of patents engraved into it, dates. Maybe you can see that. Oops, it would help if it was the right way around. So April 17, 1900, and then June the 2nd, 1914. And other than a few very minor bits of rust, it's a pretty good nick. Lovely and smooth still. This was my original Moore and Wright 0 to 1 inch, and it's got you can see that, you can just see the vernier scale around it reading in tenths. It's had a hard life by the look of it. It's been stamped up, quite a few knocks, doinks and dings, but it still reads right. I've just readjusted it so it zeroes out, and yeah, very nice. I actually thought it was exactly the same model as those, but it turns out it isn't. If you it's a 961 SB, whereas these are a 961B. I don't know what the S stands for. One of these is missing the, I think it's this one. Yeah, it's missing the pin in the ratchet on the end there. So I'll see if I can pick one of those up. That one's in not bad nick. The shaft's had a bit of looks like somebody's over polished it a bit, but it runs out and back all right. Yeah, perhaps not the same level of quality as the American Starrett micrometers, but they don't crop up very often. I've only got a couple, but I really like these older style of mic heads on Moore and Wright. That little bit of knurling comes to hand very nicely. Those two are Starretts, but they're metric. So yeah, this one's stamped up as, I think it's 1945. Don't know what the A means or the arrow. Seem to remember that arrow's something to do with the war. Yeah. All good stuff. A few more to go, I think. I wasn't intending on showing this, but it may be of benefit to somebody else. The lathe's drilled at the moment with, I think it's 5/8 through hole. What I want is a 28mm through hole. What I originally was going to do it with a drill and tap it to 1" BSP, but that proved a bit of a challenge, so we're going for an M30 by 2. So I've repaired the mag drill, got a 28mm high-speed steel cutter in it. I've made up a leveling base, which is just a thick piece of steel, 4 jacking screws. That sits on the floor. I put a spirit level across that way and that way, get it something like level, so that the top of that enables me to put the mag base just over a bit so I can get the reach, and then drill away. Now, anybody that's looking at doing this, don't buy a high-speed steel cutter. Pay the extra and get a tungsten carbide cutter, because each hole is taking me about 45-50 minutes, about 5 hand sharpening, and the skin on this casting is about 1/4 inch thick, and that is just bloody horrible stuff. It destroys the high-speed steel cutter. The mag drill's running at, I think, no load RPM's 400 RPM. It wants to be about 80, and that's just destroying the tips. So yeah, it's proving a challenge. We've got 2 holes left, this one here and then that one, and then I've got to wind the tap down. I've done that one at the back there. So yeah, I'm not going to video it because it's very noisy, a lot of swearing, and no fun at all. Well, I think it's took 9 hours to drill 8 holes, and the last 2 I broke through the skin, and then the cutter tip burned out again, and it was just spinning and doing that. So I packed up for the night. I had yesterday doing something completely different, then came back to it this morning and re-sharpened the tip, but use a slightly different approach. I'll pull it out and I'll show you, but it's gone through it like butter once I've got it sorted. So what I've done is, this is just a round diamond file. I've gone in, give myself a fixed stop, in this case my thumb, to the point at which the edge of the tip is on the diameter, the widest part of the file, i.e. so I'm not going up here, which would give a negative rate. I've then used just a flat file, again needle file, diamond file, and put the back bevel on best I could. So having created a bit of a positive rake on it, or back on it, it's pulling itself into the work, so much so that instead of me having to stand with a foot either side on the plate to hold the thing down whilst I give it a load of pressure, it's pulling itself down into the cast iron, which is causing the motor to bog down and reducing the RPM. It's just a case of me feathering the handles just to balance it so it doesn't stall or trip my transformer out. So it's done these 2 in about 15 minutes. Yeah, should really have a stop and a think and a day's fishing again when I've got a problem. Anyway, you live and learn. Last but 1 hole and I'm knackered. The 30mm or about 1.25 inches. So the taps are 16mm square, and I haven't got a socket that will fit over it, and I haven't got a tap wrench that will fit over it that I can get in. So we got a I think it was an M20 nut, put that over it, and then we can use a standard socket and a wrench that's about 1 foot too short, but at least it works. Ta-da! Yeah, it don't look much, but it's took me a bloody week. So each foot position's now got a new jacking screw, and the 4 screws in the middle have a oh Christ, what is this? It's just over 1/2 inch diameter, about a 13.5mm hole through them, so I can put an M12 down and a plate secured to the floor, and the M12 into the plate, and that'll just stop any kind of shuffling around that you might want to do. I can't actually believe that it's going to do that. Now, what I have found is, having levelled it up with these feet, which is a shed load easier than doing it with wedges, the this end of the workshop seems to be a hell of a lot higher than that end. You know, you're talking of a sort of 1/4 of an inch, which I was just surprised about. Anyway, so that's all that done, and I can now get on with encouraging Chris to do his finishing scrapes that he wants to do over it all. Yeah, moving on from that. So I'm scratching my head now, trying to decide what to do for the best. Yeah, just truing up a couple of blocks of aluminium to make some soft jaws for my vise. So a slightly different format of update, a bit chopping about, but that's pretty much how it's been for the last fortnight. Just tidying up jobs, trying to get some progress. I need to sit and have a chat with Chris now and find out whether he's going to come round and finish off what he started, or he might just have had enough. I mean, he's in his mid-70s. I need to keep that in mind. He's not a young bloke anymore. A slightly awkward thing for me to discuss now. I set up a Patreon account with a view to enabling some of the subscribers, or not subscribers for that matter, to help support the channel. That kind of goes against the grain for English society, or we don't generally put our hands out at a cap, but I'm got to remind myself that, you know, I'm not that proud. So I've set up a Patreon account. There's a link on my channel header. It's a tiny little thing to the bottom right hand side of the main picture, if I remember. The reason for doing it, I actually had a gentleman who shall remain nameless sent me a donation via PayPal, which I'd almost forgotten I'd got the button on there, and it was very well received. More so because I hadn't expected anything, and I've never ever asked for anything, but it was received with great thanks. I hope people get something out of the videos that I put together. I get a bit of enjoyment out of some of the comments that come back. It's nice to share some of the frustrations, have a bit of a vent every now and again. Anyway, hopefully by the next time I put another update up, there'll be some significant progress. Thanks all. Do subscribe and share as much as you can. More subscribers I get, the pittance of advertising that I get off YouTube should start lifting. It's currently working out about $10 a month, so it barely pays for the electricity for running the joint. But cheers all. I actually forgot to say the reason for wanting the putting up the PayPal links was to help support the channel in terms of buying equipment that I can then learn how to use and improve things. My welding has been less than desirable, and there's been a few examples of it. Look away if you don't like chicken shit welding. I actually purchased a TIG welder a while back, a new purchase, and I want to start to learn to use it. And at the moment I'm trying to save up enough money to buy a canister of argon. I've been advised don't bother with the small ones, because if you're learning you'll use them up before you've learnt anything. So I'm looking to try and get I think it's about 70 or 80 pound bottle, gas bottle of argon. So that's my first challenge. Any contributions more than appreciated.